Merry rainy Thursday morning, at least in my region, YouTube. Leafs were in Philly last night for their latest affair near the end of the season here, and last night's game was almost the tale of two or three different games within the game. Philadelphia can be one of those arenas on the road that's tough to start in because the Flyers usually always seem to have a physical, bordering on dirty kind of team, and it can be a loud building as well. But the Leafs reversing their trend of not starting on time, definitely did start on time last night. They were easily the better team in the first period, and got out to a 2-0 lead in the game with goals from Brown and later on Kadri. And they went up 2-0, and everything was looking peachy keen. And then came the second period where they, which looked a lot more like their normal first period. And they just kind of, the momentum completely swung the other way. Philly took over the game and scored 3 unanswered goals to go up 3-2. And things were not looking great. Third period was the most even period of the entire game. It's like they just took the first and second period, averaged them out, and then we had a pretty close kind of period. The Leafs got on the board early with the goal from Matthews to tie it up, and not long afterwards, Philly went up 4-3. But just not long after the halfway point, Nylander got the Leafs on the board again and tied things up 4-4 and sent it to overtime. So at least they. After letting that lead slip away, they crawled back and scraped at least a point out of it. And the overtime, Philly I think ended up outshooting the Leafs in overtime somehow, but it was more of the Leafs seemed to be the team in possession of the puck for most of the time. They just held on to it and kept resetting and trying to generate chances, and I thought we're the better team in the overtime. But despite that, it was really a goaltender's duel, even though it was 4-4. Both teams had close to 40 shots, or maybe over 40 shots in the end, and it really was a battle of Anderson versus Hart in the goaltenders' creases. So, shootout took 5 rounds to end the game. The Leafs didn't get any goals, and Philadelphia only got the one in the 5th round from Couturier, and that was the game. So, again, it's one of those, take the positives out of it. The positives were they finally had a good start, but then they took their foot off the gas. So at least the start was good. The other good part of the game, which I really, really liked, was that 3 of the Leafs that scored were 3 of the guys who were slumping most over the past little while or over the whole season. Connor Brown has not had a good year. He's a very versatile player. So even when he's not scoring, he at least does good things, but this has easily been his least productive year in terms of offensive numbers. So, and he hasn't scored in a while. So getting him on the board was huge. And then Kadri too. He hadn't scored in quite a while, since February sometime. So him getting the second goal was another guy that's kind of off the schneid, and Brown got an assist on that goal too. So he had a couple points. So that was nice. And then Matthews, of course, he scores like crazy, so that didn't matter. But Nylander, after the whole lockout thing and then getting back and not really seeming to find that groove, seeing flashes of his normal self here and there, but still not being able to round out, it was nice to see him get a goal too. So that was 3 guys who have been struggling that all got goals. So that was the biggest positive for me to drag out of this game. And I guess the third one would be that Anderson looked really good. I mean, he gave up 5, including the shootout, but he also had a ton of shots against, and he made some really good saves too. So the only really fault you can give the Leafs on that night is just they collapsed in that second period, and their defense kind of allowed Philly to get back into it. So again, until they get their guys back, I'm kind of, it is an area of concern, but I'm not going to worry about it too much, seeing as it's the end of the season and they're missing 2 guys. Once they get Gardner and Dermott back and have a couple games to get them back in, if things don't start to get better, then I'll start to be seriously concerned. But for now, I'm not going to worry about it too much. And the good news is that Dermott, they say, is like super close. He could be back any game now. And Gardner's also taken some strides forward, so he'll be at some point after Dermott, it looks like, but sounds like sooner than they expected. So that's good news too. So you know, they scraped a point out on the road against a team that's been one of the hottest ones since the Philly managed to turn their fortunes around from a bad start this season. So you know, you got to take it all for what it's worth. So now I think they're off until Saturday, so they've got a few days to hopefully continue to get those bodies healed and bodies back in the lineup, and to work things out in practice. So yeah, all in all, it wasn't ideal last night, but it also there was a lot of positives to bring out of last night's game. So that's what I'm going to do, and we will see what happens on Saturday night. Till then, have a great end of the week.